Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew a stylish princess that bustier midi dress. Just as you can see on the screen, the one at the middle is the one I recreated and the red one is the inspiration. If this sounds like what you'd be interested in, then you have to stick around till the end because this is a pattern drafting and sewing tutorial. Everything is right in this video and you would definitely love this one. So I started with my pattern paper and then I will go ahead and be using all of the things that you can see on the screen. So I had to start by drawing a horizontal line at the beginning of the paper, just as you can see. I then had to go ahead and take my shoulder measurement divided by 2. I marked and drew a vertical line. So after that, I had to go ahead and take the neckline measurement of 3 by 3. If your client is on the bigger side, you can use 3.5 by the 3.5 and then you connect just as I did. Now you go ahead and drop for your shoulder slope 1 inch there and then connect to the neckline just as you can see me do in this video. So you go ahead and draw your bust measurement divided by 4. That is bust circumference divided by 4. You mark at 2 points or 3 points and draw your vertical line just as I did right here. Now the next is to take your armhole measurement. First measure 5 down and go in by 3/4 and use these landmarks to draw your armhole. That is half of your armhole measurement. Okay, you go ahead and draw it just as you can see me do. So after that, I'll go ahead and take the half length, the front half length. Just as you can see me do, go ahead and take your front half length and draw your horizontal line there. Just like so, okay? So right here, I'll go ahead and measure the bust level and then bust to bust. Bust to bust is 7 and then divided by 2 here is 3.5. Go ahead and use your specific bust to bust and bust level. So right here, I'm marking the dart and the dart intake is 1 inch and that is what I'm drawing right here. And I ended it 1 inch below the bust point. I hope you saw me do that. So after this, I will go ahead and mark the under bust and I drew a small horizontal line there. And this way is 3/4, this other way is 1/4 inch. And I had to go ahead and connect this to the bust point with my curved rule. Yes, the curved part of my rule, just as you can see me do. Now the next is to complete the dart by taking it to the waistline. Yes. So this is what I have. You can see that one side of the dart has increased the dart measurement by 1/4 inch. So the dart now is 1/4 inches. So right here, you measure your waist measurement divided by 4 plus dart intake of 1/4. And that is what I connected to the side there. So right here, you take a line to the bust point and go ahead and measure the difference between the front and the back half length. Okay, you connect to the bust point just as you can see me do. So I had to go ahead and mark this part just as you can see because everywhere I'm shading will be going off. So I marked the middle of the armhole measurement there and I dropped by 1 inch and I'll be connecting these 2 points to the bust points. Okay, I connected this one first and then this other one second. Yeah. So right here will be going off. So I had to extend this line longer to 1 inch. Yeah, I had to extend there and measure 1 inch. I'll connect this to the rest of the armhole. So do the same while drafting your own. So this is what I have at this stage. So I had to go in here by 1.5 and then dropped the neckline by about half. Half is fine. Okay, you connect like this. This is to get a sort of canoe neck, just as you can see in the pinned post. So where I shaded will be going off. So right now, this is what I have, and I will use this pattern to make the back pattern. So you have to watch and see exactly what I am going to do. So right here, I'm going up by about 1/4 inches, which is the difference between the front and the back half length. So that is what I'm marking, and I'm using dotted lines to denote this point. Now this is the level of the back length because I want to use the same pattern and draft the back pattern. So watch closely and see what I am going to do with that. So this is what I'm just ensuring that the measurement is correct. So I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern. Watch closely and see how I'm going to use this particular pattern to make my back pattern. It's possible you've not seen someone use it like this before. Yes, you can see it where the front and the back half lengths are the like people that use the seam length or in Natalie Bray, but here for side bust that, maybe you've not seen it and you're going to see that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out all of this and then continue with the rest of the pattern. While cutting, ensure that you take note of all of these points that I am taking note of. You will see where I marked because that point is very important. Okay, I'll be using it for the across back. So here I am folding in the line to get the back half length. Okay, you can see what I have there. So I'll get another paper and place this one right on it. So the modification here is just on the back tightening and of course slightly of the armhole, yes, because the across chest and the across back are not exactly the same. The across chest you have to go in by 3/4 at the level of 5, but for back you go in by 1/2 inch, just a difference of 1/4. So you're going to see what I'm doing here. So I'm just using my marker to trace out this pattern. So watch closely to see what I'm going to do. I'm just adding that extra by the side, yes, because we are going to do back tightening, right? So I'm just adding that extra, but watch closely to see what I'm doing. So this will really cut down your pattern making time. I usually do it when I'm making clothes for my clients, yes, when I'm drafting a pattern, but most time when I'm doing tutorial, I tend to do the front and the back. On another thought, I was like, let me just show my family here how this can be done easily. So here you have to just come out by 1/4 inch on that across chest level, okay, because that is the difference between the front and the back chest line. Okay, so after that you just have to trace here. I'm using my tracing wheel to trace the original armhole. I hope you saw that. So I'm tracing the original armhole and you can see the level of the neckline that I took. I dropped it by 1 inch because it's the back, but if you want your back neckline to drop, feel free to drop it or even give it a V shape if that is what you want for your back, or even a square shape. Feel free to take any shape of back neckline that you please. Okay, so after that I'm going to cut it out like this and you can see what I have. You can as well see, yes, you can see where the front pattern line is because we'll be making use of that as a landmark. So here you go in by 1/2 inch, which is the back tightening, and from there I'm going to measure waistline measurement divided by 4. You mark it and add 1/2 inch, no, 1 inch that intake. Okay, so that is what I took there and I connected to the bust. So you can see what I have right here. So I also connected for the back tightening and I ensured that it did not pass the level of the armhole. So you can see that that side, it didn't take all of that allowance that I gave by the side. Yes, I purposely did it so that nothing will make me like start patching up the paper and all of that. So like this, you easily make your back pattern from your front pattern. I hope you have learned something new today. So after that, I will go ahead and cut out the rest of the pattern. So this is what I have. I had to go ahead and close up the side bust darts, and this is the complete pattern set for the front and the back. Yeah, the front princess dart bustier and of course the back pattern. So right here I will go ahead and cut this out on fabric. So you have to place your fabric on fold just as you can see me do, and go ahead and place your pattern pieces on it, and then we will start cutting. Okay, so you know that this pattern was made without any seam allowance, so I'm going to be adding the seam allowances as I cut this pattern. Of course, I will also put notches where notches are needed. So you go ahead and cut your pattern pieces just as you can see me do. Add 1/2 inch on all of the sides except the side that you take minimum of 1 inch or 1 1/2. Okay, every other part is half inch except the side and the zipper allowance, just as you can see. So after doing this, I had to mark where the allowances are for both the front and the back. I marked the bust point and the under bust as well, because especially for this center front, if you don't mark or notch your under bust and the bust point, you're going to get confused where they are when you join your patterns, because all of these things has to rhyme for your bust cup to sit right. Okay, so this is what I have after cutting it out and also after notching. So I had to go ahead and apply hairstay to all of it. So you know hairstay, so I applied hairstay. I'll go ahead and also put, you can see I've also padded it with wadding. I used light wadding. Check the previous tutorial to see a full tutorial of how to pad your princess dart bustier. It's a detailed tutorial just in case you don't know how to pad up your princess dart. And this is what I have. You just go ahead and notch, iron open, and use your hairstay to stick it down just like this. The next is to go ahead and push it out just like this, and then use your ironing cloth and of course your bust ham under the bust cups and place your ironing cloth on it and iron it out. Yes, this is the final stage. Check the link in the description to see a detailed tutorial on padding a princess dart bustier. So I cut the lining the same way and simply applied interfacing on the neckline. Yes, so you have to go ahead and use this and turn the neckline, notch and top stitch, and this is the result you're going to get after that. Okay, so I didn't even know that this part was not showing so well, so you have to place the shoulder like this, just as you can see me do, and stitch it lining to lining and fabric to fabric. After that, you place it in place like this and go ahead and trim any excess on that shoulder armhole area. Yes, place it really nicely. Make sure you put hand on the bust cup to ensure it is well balanced before you can see the exact excess that may be there. So if there is any excess, you go ahead and trim it, and then this is how you're going to place this armhole area. I didn't know here was not showing, okay, but what I'm just trying to do here, you can see it now, is just to stitch down this armhole area. So I'm just using chalk to mark the seam allowance, because after joining the armhole, turning the armhole, you will not be seeing the seam allowance anymore. So now I had to place the side like this. You can see how I'm placing it because I'm stitching it lining to lining and fabric to fabric. I want everything to be separate because even the gathering of the lower part will be lining to lining and fabric to fabric. So after doing that, I had to angle out the seam allowance like this because the next stage will be to put the gathered parts. Yes, so this is what we have at this stage, and you can see how beautiful it's looking already. See how the armhole is looking so neat and fine. So this is what the bustier looks like. You won't believe that I used light wadding to pad this thing up all through. So it's not about the weight of the wadding, but about the accuracy and how you iron out your bustier and every other thing you need to do while padding it up, which I explained in detail in the previous tutorial. So go ahead and measure your waistline. I measured the front because it has side seam, okay, and I'm going to multiply by 2. I actually multiplied by 2 and then added extra about 5 to 6 inches. Okay, so I'm first of all going to cut for the front. So what I did now is to multiply the front measurement by 2, and that is what I am using to cut this out. Now the length is the length that is remaining for this gown length. The full gown length is 50. 50 minus the half length is 16. Okay, 50 minus 16 is 34. So what I marked as the length is 34 plus 5 inches. Yes, 5 inches. That is what I marked for the length, because you know it is a sort of ball gown which will be going inside. So what I'm marking here is the waist measurement times 2 plus extra 5 inches. Okay, that is what I used for the waistline. You can see the measurements I used showing on the screen in the video, right? So right now I had to angle it out like this, like an A-line sort of skirt. And here you can see I have 21 here, and the upper part I have 18 unfold. I hope this makes sense. So because of the measurements I got on the waistline, so go ahead and do yours. multiply your waistline measurement by 2. Okay, so I will place it like this to cut out the back. So on the fold there, I had to put it in 1 inch. You see it at the end of this cutting because I didn't know that part was not showing, but you are going to see it right now. So you can see what I have on the fold there, about 1 inch zipper allowance, because this is going to have side seams and of course the zipper seam. Okay, zipper allowance. So right here is length that is needed, 34 plus 5 inches, which gives us 39 inches. But for the lining, I'm going to do 34 minus 5 inches, which is 31. So the length of the lining is going to be 31. 34 minus 5 inches, sorry. Okay, 34 minus 5 inches, that is 29. That is the length of the lining, while the fabric is 34 plus 5 inches, which is 39, because the lining will be pulling up the fabric inside to form the balloon shape. Okay, with every other thing that is going to make it to be a ball gown. So just watch as we progress in this tutorial and you're going to understand everything. Extra 5 inches I added for the fabric is to form the ball that is going to go in, as well as the seam allowance for the waistline, and of course for turning the lining and the fabric. So right here I've placed the front lining. This fabric is on fold as well, the lining, and I had to go ahead and cut it out. The back also has seam allowance just like the front. So this is exactly the fabric pattern but shorter in length. This one is 29 inches and the fabric pattern is 39 inches, right? That's 34 plus 5, 39, 34. Yeah, that is what it is. I hope this makes sense. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and start joining together. So what I did was to place the sides like this, and I'm going to stitch it from the top to the down. I'll do the same for the fabric as well. I placed the front part like this and placed the back on top of it, matching the side seam, because I'm going to stitch it down. So right here I'll also place the back right sides facing each other, and I will join the side. So after joining all of this, you can see what it looks like. I had to go ahead and serge it, and left just half-inch seam allowance so that that side will not be bulky, right? So you can see the lining, I've also serged it. Now the next thing is to place it just as you can see me do, right sides facing each other, right side of the lining touching the right side of the fabric. You're going to place it like this on the hem and stitch all through. So after stitching, this is what I got. You can see what I have. I had to go ahead and serge as well. Now the next is to go ahead and put the balloon effect. So, and the secret there is this elastic. So I'm going to place this elastic and stretch it as I stitch. You can see what I'm demonstrating here. So you have to drag it as you stitch, and then we are going to go ahead and stitch it all through. Here I have stitched it all through, and you can see what it looks like. So I'll go ahead and show you what it is. So this is the measurement of the elastic. Okay, the elastic band is like half of the measurement of that hem. So if you get the full measurement of the hem as, let's say, 40, make your elastic about 21 inches or 22. Yeah, that will be fine. So after that, I will go ahead and form it. I always like to do checks while I stitch. Yes, so I check the fit, I check the form, I check the flow. So that is what I'm doing here. I'm just placing it in place and keeping it in place and then pinning it down, because I want to check out the balloon effect to know if it's giving me what I want. And yes, I was happy with the effect because it gave the balloon effect, just as you can see. So the next step is to go ahead and gather the waist. So you can see the balloon effect. So this is how balloon gowns or tops or anything balloon is made. So after that, this is the upper part, and I'll go ahead and gather it on top. I'm going to gather the lower part on the upper bodice. So right now I will do that lining to lining and fabric to fabric. So watch closely to see what I'm going to do. So you can see that this thing is separate. I separated the lining and the fabric. This is to control bulk and for professional sewing technique, right? So I'm going to gather this fabric to fabric and lining to lining. So that is what I'm trying to demonstrate here. So you can see it's separate. So you're also going to gather this fabric on the fabric part and then gather the lining to the lining parts of the bodice. So that is what I did here, and this is what I have. Just the center back that is now open. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch close the center back. So watch closely to see what I'm going to do. So you can see what it looks like. Two of them are separate and it's going to give this dress a very nice balance. Yeah. So that is how to make your clothes, and I like using best sewing techniques when I make clothes. Okay, so you can see what I have right here is looking beautiful already, even when we are not done. So what you're going to do is to go ahead. I usually like pinning my waistline to give a sort of control. All right, you can pin as much as you want actually. So it pins help to give you more control when you are sewing. So I'm going to stitch from the zip allowance drop. Okay, I'm going to stitch all through lining to lining and fabric to fabric and end it where the zipper will end. I hope you understand. I stitched it inside lining to lining and fabric to fabric, giving zipper allowance is. So from the waistline I dropped about 8 inches downwards into the skirt. I hope this makes sense. So I didn't get to that point because zipper will be right there. So right here I'll be using zipper. This is not the color of zipper I'll be using. I used red zipper, but this was what was handy and I had to use it and illustrate what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be stitching this zipper on the fabric. Okay, I'll place it on the fabric and stitch it down. So this is how you're going to stitch it down. First on the fabric, stitch this side and also stitch the second side only on the fabric. It's after stitching on the fabric you're going to use your lining and turn it like this, if this makes sense. So you're going to stitch it down till you get to where the allowance of the zipper ends. Okay, so this is what I have. I'll first of all stitch on the fabric and then I'll show you what I have. So here I've stitched my red zipper on, and this is what I want to achieve. I actually want the zipper to be between the lining and the fabric. So you can see I've turned it with the lining and stitched it to the extent that I can, because it won't let you stitch completely to the extent that you want. So there's still a space remaining on the downside. So this is what I have at the end of the day, and I couldn't go further than this. So I had to do something to ensure I do this. So I had to open up this side. So I had to open up this side, by about 4 inches. Okay, you can even leave this space from the onset so that you will put your hand through there and of course stitch up the space that is remaining. Yes, this will give you the chance to turn this inside out completely, to turn it to the back side and stitch close completely that zipper and turn everything from this space that we just created, this 4 inches space. Turn everything inside out from the space and you can see what we have, how neat the inside is. So you go ahead and zip up your dress just as you can see me do, and you can see how beautiful everything is looking. So this is the reverse of our dress. You can see it looking so lovely, so gorgeous. You can see the ball effect and everything. So this is the space. Now what we are going to do is to arrange it really nicely. If you need to iron it down, go ahead and stitch it close on the surface with a matching thread. That is all. So after stitching, this is the final result. Isn't this gorgeous? If you enjoyed this tutorial, give me a thumbs up, comment, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. I want to read your comments. And then subscribe and turn on your notification bell to be the first to know each time I upload my videos. Thank you all for always stopping by to watch my videos, and thank you for watching. I love you all. And of course, I will see you in my next one. Bye.